Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of my motorcycle journey and other stories. This is Wamoyo Karaoke. Thank you so much for clicking this video, and thank you so much for keeping up with my stories. I appreciate all of you who have subscribed and all of you watching my videos. Thank you so much. You are the reason why I am back here again to tell you yet another story about my motorcycle journey. If it is your first time here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Right here, the red button, click on it, and then after that there will be a bell next to it. Click on that one, and every time I put a video live, you will be notified and you will not miss this great content that I am bringing you. I actually today decided to style my hair. Yeah, I never get to do this because if I style my hair, it can't fit in the helmet. Like this, if I wore my helmet now, my helmet will be hanging somewhere here. So thank you to quarantine. I'm discovering things to do with my hair. And you know what? Being locked down, and especially for us who stay in a hostel and are locked down in a small room, 4 walls, small room with a bathroom and toilet only, any little thing that makes me feel like I am getting ready to get out there is so exciting. So this today is my feel-good factor. It is also our second wedding anniversary, so another reason to look great. So yeah, after doing this video, I'll be heading on a date to the kitchen, make something to eat and sit and eat as we celebrate our second anniversary locked down in Nicaragua. So today we are talking about buying your first motorcycle, and this is because one of my fans felt that in my video how I got into motorcycling, I did not share much about how I bought my motorcycle. They actually said that I made that look like it's a kiosk errand. Seriously? I know I mentioned that I bought my motorcycle on my third lesson. Yes, and I know I also didn't give much details, so I am here to tell you all about buying your first motorcycle. And also this is going to come from my experience buying my motorcycle then and lessons that I have learned over the time, because I have bought more motorcycles during my riding career of 4 years. 4 years. I celebrated 4 years last year in October. It's been an amazing journey, I can't deny, and of course I would love to see more people join motorcycling. That is like my dream, to see more people get into riding, especially women. I'm not being biased, but yes, I'd love to see more women get into motorcycling because it's empowering. There's something about it, about being on a bike, rolling it yourself and moving. There's something about it that until you ride, you will not understand. I could sit here for an entire day, for hours, but you will never get this feeling. You will not understand this feeling until you sit on a motorcycle and ride it out. So let's get into shopping for your first motorcycle, because today's video is all about that. However, here I am here to talk about your beginner's motorcycle, not all the motorcycles. So beginner's motorcycles are motorcycles up to 300 cc's. The reason the other motorcycles above 300 cc's are not considered beginners is because they require more experience, they're more powerful, they're more heavier, and therefore not a perfect fit for a beginner. In some countries you get a lot of training. You get like you start with the basics and you go to another level and another level, and therefore a 600cc may be a good starting bike. But in my country, Kenya, I know what kind of training we get. It is basic training and you hit the road, and all the other types of training, whether it is off-road, whether it is advanced, whether it is all those types of trainings, you have to voluntarily go for them. they're not a must. You have your license already. So for that reason, I am recommending don't buy anything above 300cc for a beginner bike. At this point, I'm assuming you have finished your training in riding, you probably have your license, and you have done your road trails. And let me be honest with you, if you haven't done your road trails, please go and first do your road trails. Riding in the training ground and riding on the road are two totally different things. The road is scary. If you're watching this from Kenya, you know how our traffic is like. You know how our roads are like. You know how matatus behave. You know how other drivers behave. You know how much jaywalking is there. This is not news to you. So getting on the road for the first time without any road experience, to get into this chaos or chaotic roads, is going to be very traumatizing and very scary. So make sure you do your road drills before you get on your motorcycle. And if you're not comfortable with one or two, talk to your instructor. These guys are the best. They're very considerate. They listen. They're there to make sure you're comfortable on the road. They're there to make sure that you're safe on the road. Like, road safety is key to them. So do not be afraid to go back and say, I want more road drill classes. They will do it. So let's assume you have done all this and you're now ready to buy your motorcycle. The first thing you have to come up with is a budget. Have a budget of how much money you want or are able to spend on a motorcycle. And when setting a budget, if you haven't bought your riding gear now, you need to include that in your budget. If you haven't got a medical cover, you need to include that in your budget. I mean, I don't want to scare you, but motorcycle accidents are different. It's not like you're in a car. So even the slightest fall, it is your body against the road or your body against the tarmac. So when you would have a small minimal accident with a car, it will be a car to car bumper and probably nothing happens to you. But for a motorcycle, if you go down, it's you and the ground. So you need to have a medical cover all the time. If you don't have a private one, make sure your NHIF is up to date, because that will cater for you in case you have to go to the hospital. But God forbid that you will get into an accident. My prayer is that you're safe on the road and that you don't have to go to a hospital because of an accident. Having said that, it's something that you need to factor in your budget. The other thing you need to factor in your budget is the insurance for your motorcycle. Most insurance companies don't like us, but you must insure your motorcycle. So factor those three things in addition to the money you're going to spend on your motorcycle. So we are talking about riding gear, personal accident and medical cover, insurance cover for the motorcycle, and the motorcycle itself. From there, you have an idea of what kind of riding you want to do. Whether it's going to be commuting to work. For example, when I first started riding, my sole purpose of riding was to commute from office to home and home to office. At that point, I didn't think about going outside the city. I'm being very honest with you. I didn't think I would be riding to Naivasha, I'll be going to Namanga, I'll be doing all this stuff. I only wanted to be able to leave my house, get to the office and back home, and probably go for coffee dates and go for shopping to the supermarket. So my mileage per day was nothing more than maybe 40 on a round journey, 40-50 kilometers on a round journey. So for that reason, I bought a motorcycle based on that purpose, that I wanted a commuter motorcycle within the city of Nairobi and not going outside. However, I learned that it is good to factor in everything that you want to do with your motorcycle, and it's also good to think a little ahead, because I didn't do that. I didn't think that in a couple of months I would want to start riding outside the city. But now it's good to factor in that once you get used to the motorcycle and to riding on the road, you might consider getting out of the city. And when you consider getting out of the city, now start thinking about what kind of roads are you going to be riding in? Are you going to be doing off-road? Are you going to be doing on-road? Are you going to be doing both, a combination of both? Also think about the mileage. How far are you going to be riding? Are you going to be riding probably a round trip of 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers, 400 kilometers? All these things are important to consider. And the reason being is, one, you need to buy a motorcycle that has the right tank to avoid you fueling the motorcycle every so few kilometers because you're traveling so far. If you're doing 400 kilometers, you probably need to refill once or twice, depending on the size of the tank. Also, if you're going to be doing on-road and off-road, a combination of the two, you need tires that are perfect for that combination, a 50-50, 50 on-road, 50 off-road. If you're just going to be commuting from office to home and home to office, then a small tank doesn't matter because your mileage will probably be very small. And that is only if you're living very close to the office. Some people live maybe 50 kilometers away from their offices. So again, consider the mileage, consider the type of riding, and consider how far you want to go with it. The other thing you need to consider is the comfort. If you're riding within the city, some motorcycles like street motorcycles or the sporty ones are okay. They're perfectly okay, but if you're thinking of doing long distance, the sitting position of those motorcycles is very tiring. So you need to think, if you'll be doing long distance with your motorcycle and short distance at the same time with the same motorcycle, you need a comfortable sitting position. So you need to think of a motorcycle that comes with a comfortable sitting position for both short rides and long rides. You also need to think about maintenance of the motorcycle, the service range. How often do you need to service your motorcycle? If you're planning to be doing long distances every weekend, it means that if you take a motorcycle that has a service range of 3,000 kilometers, then you'll be doing your services more often. If you take a motorcycle that has a longer range, you'll be doing your services not so frequent, and then it gets economical. So we have set a budget, we have looked at what type of riding you want to do, and so we have an idea of what bike you need, or I need, both of us. So make a list of those bikes that fit in your budget, they fit in the type of riding you want to do, and they fit in the category of riding you want to do. Whether you want to do more of off-road or more of on-road, or even if you want to do sports like enduro and motocross. So make sure you list a few of those bikes that fit in the category and the budget and the type. And then start researching on this motorcycle. A number of places to find information about the motorcycles when you're researching. The first one is the website for the particular brand or brands you have listed. The particular brands you have listed, go to their website and see the technical aspect of the bikes. Some of them will even go further and describe the performance of the bike. Go there and read more about the bike. Then also go to the YouTube. YouTube is a very good source of information. There are a lot of people who review bikes professionally, and then there are people who share their information and experience with motorcycles. Go and look for that information about the bikes that you have listed. Then also ask around through friends. Facebook is another good source of content and information. Go there, do your research thoroughly, and from the list you had in the beginning, you will now narrow down to what fits exactly in what you want. The budget, type of riding, and category of riding. Once you have narrowed down to that, get to visit the dealers. And I'm hoping that you've chosen bikes that have presence in your country. Bikes that you can find dealers in your country. Because if they're bikes that are direct importation, then again, maintenance and service is going to be an issue because most of the times you have to import the parts if you need to. So look for bikes that have a presence in your, look for brands that have a presence in your country. Look for those brands with dealers and have good dealer support. Then start visiting these dealers and testing the bikes. Go to the dealer, sit on the bike, request to start it. If possible, if they do allow, have a road test. If they don't allow, if they have a compound where you can move the bike, please do. As you're choosing the type of the bike that you want to ride, you also need to consider your height, weight, and inseam. Those are very, very relevant to the bike that you get to ride. Because as a beginner, it's always recommended that you ride a bike that you can have your feet flat on the ground when you're at a stop. You also need a bike that you can lift if you drop it. Even getting it off the side stand, you need a bike that you can manage in terms of the weight. You need a bike that you can manage in terms of power. So consider your body size as you're listing and choosing the bikes that you want to ride. Also consider the comfort of this bike, because if you buy the wrong bike, if you buy a bike that doesn't fit you well, a bike that you don't get excited when you're riding, a bike that you're struggling to lift, a bike that you're struggling to come to a stop with, a bike that you're struggling to keep upright, then chances are, having this kind of a bike as a beginner, you're likely to quit riding. It's going to be frustrating. You're likely to quit riding. You need a bike that you're enjoying. You know? You need a bike that every time you wake up, you're looking forward to riding it. You need a bike that you feel, when you go to sleep, you're just thinking about how tomorrow's ride is going to be. So make sure you buy the bike that you like and the bike that fits you very well. Once you set your budget, you already know if you want to buy a brand new bike or you want to buy a second-hand bike. If you're going for a brand new bike, it's pretty obvious. The price is what the dealer gives you, and the bike will be brand new, never used by anyone else. So straightforward, go find the bike you like and buy it. But if you're buying a second-hand bike, you have to consider a few things. One, you have to check with the dealers as you do the visit. Check whether the dealers do trade-ins, and that is one of the places where you can buy a second-hand bike. It will be dealer maintained, so chances are high that it's going to be a really good bike, and you have an opportunity to also trade it in once you're done with it, which also gives you a better a better opportunity to sell your bike faster when you want to upgrade or change to another bike. But if you choose to buy a bike from someone else, a lot of people get into biking and buy a beginner bike, and after a couple of months they change, or they want to upgrade, or they have now decided the type of riding they want to do, the category, and they want to change the bike. So there are a lot of good bikes out there that have only been used for a short period of time, so it's easy to find one. But make sure you have someone who can technically and mechanically check this bike for you. As a beginner, you drop your bikes more. As a beginner, you're likely to have mechanical issues more. So therefore, as much as they're good bikes used for a short period of time out there, they could also come with their own share of problems. And you don't want to buy a bike that takes you to the garage more than it takes you anywhere else. That's not what you want. You also need to research the price of this bike as a second-hand bike. You really don't want to spend a lot of money buying a second-hand bike, which you probably could have spent on a new bike. So do your research well if you're going for a second-hand bike. Make sure you have it checked very well. Get a mechanic to check it for you, or a friend who understands bikes very well to check it for you. So now we are almost buying the bike. We are almost going to pay for the bike. I am just hoping that at this point your mind hasn't been swayed by the bikes you have seen, because it so happens that you had this list, you had this in mind, and then you walk into the showroom and there are so many other exciting bikes, and chances are high that they are not even within your budget. And so you're now starting to think, well, you know what, I could buy that one instead of this one. And if you fall in love with it hard, chances are high that if it is not within your budget, you're likely to start thinking of how to get that extra money that you need to buy that new bike that was not in your list. I highly recommend that please do not get financing for your motorcycle. When you go for financing, you will, let's say for example, your budget was $2,000. That is 200,000 Kenya shillings. And there's this bike that you have just come across as you go to test other bikes and see them in the showroom, and it is very exciting, it is beautiful, it is everything now that you want, and of course you're saying it is everything that you dreamt of, and it goes for $1,000 more. So then you go for financing for this money, and you tell yourself, it's just 1,000, I can pay it. But you don't factor in the interest you have to pay and the length of the time you have to be in debt paying for this extra 1,000. And then the bike is depreciating every single day that you're counting towards paying an interest on this financing. Your bike is losing value. So you'll have you may end up paying maybe 1.5, let me put it this way, you may end up paying 1.5 times of the price of this bike. And by the time you want to sell it, you cannot even recoup half of that money, because it depends on what's going to happen in between when you buy it, you're riding, and when you want to sell it. So do not go for financing for a motorcycle. Stick to that budget as you buy your motorcycle. Those are the lessons that I learned while buying my motorcycles. I hope that this video is going to be helpful for you as you shop for your first motorcycle. I can't wait to join you in your first ride, second ride, or whatever ride. If you find this information helpful, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with friends, share it with motorcycle enthusiasts, share it with someone who's looking into getting into motorcycling, share it with family, because these people really care for us, and sometimes they don't even sleep when they hear we're on a motorcycles. Let them know that we are cautious when we're buying our motorcycles and we know what we're doing. Once again, if it is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell right next to it so that you're notified every time I share a video. Until the next episode, it's goodbye for now. Ta-da! Stay safe, guys. Stay safe.